Hi guys, I thought we could take a look at various Batman-inspired characters that were created through the years. Essentially, if you wonder where the term Bat-Fake come from, essentially that's what the Joker was calling Batman Beyond in the awesome movie Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. If you never saw that, you have to see it at some point. If you're a Batman fan or a DC fan or even just a fan of good movies and good animated movies, even though it's a straight to DVD movie, it's a pretty awesome one. And in this version of the movie, the Joker keeps on referring to Batman Beyond as Batfake because obviously it's not the original Batman, it's the new Terry McGinnis Batman. So I thought we could take a look at other characters inspired by Batman, which are different enough to stand on their own, but that you can obviously see that they are inspired by Batman, or they're supposed to be Batman archetypes, I guess. So let's start with the first one, the Confessor. Essentially, it's a character that was in an awesome series called Astro City, and even awesome more series within the series was the Confession storyline. The storyline involving the Confessor was all kinds of awesome. It's by far, I think, the best Astro City storyline that was ever made, and it's by far my favorite. And in it, we had the Confessor, which essentially was the equivalent of Batman in the Astro City universe, and he had his sidekick known as Alter Boy, which was obviously his Robin archetype. So as you can see, we can pretty much recreate a fairly good representation of the Confessor. It's not 100% accurate, but if you use like the Tech Ninja boots for the two toes, that essentially the Confessor is like those ninja boots, like it's like a cross between Batman and ninja and a priest, essentially. So the Huntress chest piece does allow us to get the cross motif on the chest or the character that the Confessor has. Essentially, I gave him some pretty standard gloves. For the pants, I think I went for the Christmas Santa pants or something. The waistline was the Druid style, and the back piece is a brand new back piece that we have. The actual proper Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul back piece, and the face mask is like I don't it comes from the character creation process. The name escapes me right now. Let's go look it up. It's the thug mask. So with that, you can come up with a fairly close representation of the Confessor. It's not 100% accurate, but if I was to call this character the Confessor or confessional or the whatever, it'd be close enough that people would most likely understand who this character is supposed to be. And even without a proper name, I'm sure people would get it also. So let's look at our number two character, which I'm sure you've recognized, the Moon Knight or the Knight of the Moon, depending how you want to call it. So this one is fairly easy to reproduce, although it does require the Spectre headpiece. It requires the gloves of Sinestro. The boots, I went with the Stalwart Defender boots, but I could have used any number of boots. Although you can create something pretty close to this at character creation. The emblem is the moon emblem, which can pretty much be used to mimic the crescent moon that the Moon Knight is using as a symbol. And obviously, you go all white for the colors, except some black for maybe the emblem and the mask and the headpiece. Although I think the face is black by default. I don't think I needed to put it black. I guess the only thing I don't kind of like is the Sinestro bracers, which are kind of gray. Essentially, because of it either is a tint by default in the Sinestro gloves. Same with the belt, I guess. So you cannot get it exactly really white. This is as white as it gets. Essentially, if you put it white, it becomes gray like this. And the back piece obviously is a classic back piece, so there's nothing much to it really. So this is pretty much a pretty close interpretation of the Moon Knight. There were a few other interpretation with time as time went on, so we probably could have made a few variations depending on the era of the character. But this is more or less pretty much a classic version, and the version I have to admit that I pretty much prefer. And essentially, Moon Knight was created as a character that would fight Jack Russell, the werewolf, and it pretty much evolved into Marvel's version of Batman, especially under I think Doug Moench, I never can pronounce the name, and Bill Sienkiewicz, again another name that's very difficult to pronounce. Essentially, under those guys, Moon Knight pretty much became a Batman, let's say a Batman clone. That would be a fair assessment. And let's look for another Batman clone that Marvel has created. Essentially, in the 70s, Roy Thomas wanted to have an Avenger JLA crossover. I'm not sure if why it never happened. Maybe DC didn't want to, or maybe they never really asked. They wanted to do that without involving DC somehow. So they came up with their own version of the Justice League, which was the Squadron Sinister, which was essentially an evil version of the Justice League on Marvel Earth, and they became enemies of the Avengers. So they could have the Avengers fight the Justice League through the Squadron Sinister. The Squadron Sinister had various characters. Essentially, their characters were inspired by the Justice League characters. Like you had Hyperion, who was Superman essentially. You had the Wizard, yeah, the Wizard was the Flash, and you had Nighthawk, who was the Batman version of the group. So we were able to get fairly close to the Nighthawk look, although we probably needed a much better emblem or chest style, and the same for the face. Again, I probably could. The character did change quite a few times through the years, so I probably could have made a couple of armories just with the various look of a Nighthawk. Maybe I'll do that at some point. The same with Moon Knight. But for now, that's I went with what was pretty much the classic look for the character for a long time. It's a look that was given to him when he was a member of the Defenders, and he was a member of the Defenders through a good part of his history. And again, he was pretty much a Bruce Wayne type character who at night would dress up. He was a billionaire owner of a company, and by night he would dress up as the Nighthawk. There was something about him getting more powerful when the moon was up or something like that. It's been a few years since I read any Nighthawk comics, so it's a little hazy. But we could come up with a fairly close version of the character. And last but not least is a character that was also used by DC Comics eventually, but this is the Catman. I'm sure many would see it as a Batman clone, and I guess that's what he was originally. Uh, Essentially, DC Comics has a Catman character, but long before DC had their Catman, there actually was a Catman comic. It was a character obviously named Catman who was fighting crime, and he was fighting crime with a sidekick known as the Kitten. The Kitten was essentially a younger female version of Catman, which essentially is Robin. So essentially, the Catman had a female version of Robin, sort of. And later on he did the character is pretty much a public domain character by now. He's probably been a public domain character for quite a while because DC started using the Catman as a villain for Batman. I'm not sure if it's during the 70s or early 80s, probably mid or late 70s. Well, actually, probably early 70s. Uh, Essentially, DC made the Catman essentially a reverse Batman. The Flash had his reverse Flash with Professor Zoom, and Batman has his reverse Batman with the Catman. There were a few storylines also involving Catwoman and all that stuff. So, and the Catman is pretty easy to reproduce. Essentially, you can pretty much reproduce the whole style except for the headpiece. I used the Daring Vigilant headpiece. I probably could have used the Batman cowl. Let's try it with the Batman cowl to see how it looks. So it looks even a bit better with that cowl. Although I kind of like I always thought the ear of the Daring Vigilant. Oh, wrong one. I always thought the ears of the Daring Vigilant did kind of look like short cat-like ears. So I thought the ears were more appropriate. But the cowl that covers the neck looks much better than the yellow neck of the other version I made. So this is pretty much as close as you could get to the Catman, and it's a fairly close representation of the character. Uh, so these are the various copycat of the Batman, I guess, that we saw through the years from various sources. I could probably make half a dozen videos just going through all the various clones of the Batman, like you had the Midnighter, which ironically now is part of the DC universe. Uh, and there were probably others I fail many others I fail to recall off the bat. But I probably could, and I'll probably make maybe another video with other Batman inspired characters or Batman archetype characters that were created through the years. So I guess we'll have to wait and see for that. So that's it for now, guys. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.